This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
Hello, football fans, and welcome to the Onside Kick. My name is Ricky Widmer, and as always, I'm joined by the Mark Weber.
Dub them ease.
And we're finally back to our normal show here, Mark.
Yeah, it feels weird to not just talk about one division.
You know what?
To talk about the whole world of football.
You know what? I got it. We're going to go back to the AFC North because you weren't there that week.
Yeah, we'll just start over.
So we'll go back to the AFC North. We'll go back NFC. We'll go through all the divisions again until we go through football. But no, that's a joke. Obviously, we're going to be hitting some real NFL topics this week. Not that the previews weren't real, but these are real news topics. Going to be hitting some contracts in the NFL, how the NBA contracts are kind of influencing guys nowadays. We're going to be talking about the J.J. Watt injury and then ending the podcast with a certain quarterback that the Denver Broncos should go ahead and target. Going to leave that teaser out for you. But let's start with the contracts, Mark. And the big thing we've been talking about on the fast break for what it's been weeks since free agency started is this big kind of a boom in the NBA with contracts where you're getting guys getting paid so much money now because of the TV revenue that's coming in and different revenue from this and that. And when it originally happened, there were NFL guys tweeting stuff out about like, oh, how this is insane. There were some guys cracking jokes. Well, it's kind of getting serious now that guys are getting to camp and they're like, hey, you know what? Maybe I should be making more. One of those guys is Antonio Brown, who I'm just going to leave you with this quote, Mark. And he said, you have to take care of your guys. If a guy underperforms, you get rid of him. If he overperforms, you take care of him, end quote.
So my thought here is really that obviously basketball has smaller teams than football. That's basic here. All right. Basketball is also the kind of sport where you need more than just Aaron Rodgers, or you need more than Tom Brady to win you some Super Bowls. What did LeBron fail to do in Cleveland until this year? What did he fail to do in Cleveland? Win a championship. What did he have to do? Go to Miami, play with three of the biggest stars, so that starting lineup, you have 60% of it is absolute top tier kind of guys. All of a sudden, you're able to win. All of a sudden, you're able to do it. So I kind of feel like in the NBA, you have to pay everybody big money. If you just pay one guy big money, it doesn't work out. So I kind of understand where in basketball, that's an obligation. For football, it's very different. We all know where the weak links are on various teams. We all can list those out. We also all know that quarterbacks dominate everything. I mean, you look at the list of the highest paid players in the NFL for 2016, all quarterbacks. All quarterbacks until I'm actually literally scrolling down right now, and I still have not. There's Von Miller at number 14, the 14th highest player, or highest paid player in the NFL. So it takes a while to get past these guys because in the NFL, it's really about that one key position. And then someone like Antonio Brown, I get why he wants more money. He sees that. But you just can't ignore the fact that they're different sports.
I'm going to ask you this question because on my screen, I've got a list of the current contracts in the NBA. You've got on your screen the current contracts in the NFL. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Can you just let me know the number one guy on that list? How much money is he making per year?
The number one on this list is Andrew Luck at 23. Repeat the threes. So yeah. $23 million.
So he's making $23 million. The top salary in the NBA is DeMar DeRozan right now, and I'm looking at basketballreference.com in case you guys are going to go in the comment section and tell me I'm wrong. But DeMar DeRozan, $26.5 million this year. By the end of this contract, he's going to be making $27.7 million.
How low do you have to go down to find somebody who's paid less than Andrew Luck?
You said $23 million a year?
Yeah. Well, that's what he's guaranteed this year.
Yeah, the top 10 players, it's the top 10 make at least $23 million for the NBA. But here's what I think with this NBA, with the new guys coming in, kind of compare it to the NFL. The two that I was going to bring up, one of them is Timothy Mozgov. This is a guy that for Cleveland last year rode the bench. He now signs a deal with the LA Lakers, making $16 million a year. Then you get a guy, I scrolled down, and this guy is a true bench player in my mind, of Austin Rivers. He's making $11-12 million a year. Mm-hmm. And these are guys where I think that's the thing where the NFL guys get the most upset is when they see these bench guys coming in, getting these deals, and it's one of those things of, wait a second, why am I not getting paid? Like you said, Andrew Luck with his deal. He's getting 23, repeat the 3 if we average it out. But if I'm looking at Spot Rack and we take it, that's another thing. Between NBA and NFL, NBA does it where it's kind of like hockey does it the truest of, here's your contract, divide the years, that's what you get. There's no
which makes sense.
There's no front-loaded, back-loaded. NBA is close to that, but there's some wiggle room. With the NFL, it's completely like Andrew Luck for this year is making $12 million, but then next year he's making $7 million. Yeah, he gets a roster bonus and a signing bonus, but it's all kind of mixed up. The contracts have a lot more.
I mean, you could get paid $1 this season and $100 million next season. Obviously, you can't really do that, but you get the point. Now, the thing I will say, and I want someone to get mad at me for saying this, a guy like Antonio Brown's complaining, this bench player is getting more money than I am. Mm-hmm. You're a bench player too. You're not there on defense. You're sitting on the bench. You're not playing half the game. Actually, you're not playing more than half the game for most of these guys because you're not playing special teams either. Mm-hmm. I know that that's very nitpicky, but I just kind of think it's a dumb comment to say, hey, here's my apples. Here are their oranges. I want to be paid like an orange. It does not work in this situation. And I get the rationale of we are getting hit harder than these basketball players.
Well, they give up. In the NFL, you're giving up your body on every single play.
But at the same time, you're getting paid a shit ton still. Mm-hmm. I know this is always the problem with talking about contracts. This is what it always boils down to. How much can you really put that worth on? For me, I can't sit there and see someone who's getting paid, $10 million and see another guy getting paid $16 million and say, yeah, you know what? You're right, because this guy's making this much. You should also make this much that you can't possibly spend.
I think what it comes, the injury thing, the giving up your body and saying, hey, you know what? I play a more violent sport than these guys.
Then ask for free health insurance. That's what you should ask for.
That's a thing where I go, okay, I can see where you're coming from. But to me, the reason why I think Antonio Brown is making these comments is it's not about how much are you making a year? It all comes down to the guaranteed money because Andrew Luck in his contract extension guaranteed $87 million.
Yeah, not that much over half.
Not much. The highest paid guaranteed contract from this past offseason for Mike Conley in the NBA, $140 million. $140 million guaranteed. And he's the number one. If I went down to 87
if anyone's curious, I want you to know that that's what Andrew Luck's contract is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not the guarantee. Yeah, he would be the 9th highest paid player guarantee-wise in the NBA. You want to know Antonio Brown? He's guaranteed with this contract that ends in 2018. He's guaranteed about $8.5 million. I'm scrolling down. Let's see where he would be. Right around Festus Ezeli, 161st in the NBA. There are 160 players in the NBA getting paid more than Antonio Brown. Just put that into perspective a little bit.
I think a thing to think about here, there's a few things. The NFL, I wish I knew this better. The NFL Network, their top 100 players. Was Antonio Brown in that? I don't know. I assume he is.
The way I look at it is who's going to be the number one fantasy wide receiver off the board this year?
Yeah.
Antonio Brown.
You know, you say there's 160 players guaranteed more money. There's few things you need to think about. So, okay, how many players in the NFL? How many players in the NBA? Okay, what percentage of that are getting paid above Antonio Brown? That's one thing you can think about. How many players are in the NFL being paid above Antonio Brown? Does that percentage equal out? You know, if you took somebody, let's say he is dead center, the 50th percentile. Half the players get paid more, half the players get paid less. That's not accurate, but let's say it is. Then you go and you look at the NBA and say, okay, where is the dead center? Where is the player where 50% or more, 50% or less? Okay, are those two players comparable? That is an argument that I feel that Antonio Brown can make. If he is right there at the center and Antonio Brown, a great wide receiver in the NFL, and then the other guy who's the equal percent next to him in the NBA is a scrub who gets, 12 minutes a game, maybe 10 minutes a game, I think he's got a point, in that case. But I think what it really boils down to for me is, okay, Antonio Brown, what are you actually upset about? It's not the dollar amount. It's definitely not the dollar amount. He's not going to be able to spend this much money anyways without wasting it on something stupid. In that case, he shouldn't have had it in the first place. I'm sorry. That's how I feel. What are you upset? Is it simply the fact, because they're competitive guys. We know they're competitive guys. Is it simply the fact that he just wants a big dollar amount attached to his name because that just makes him feel that he has competitively beat other players?
Okay, I don't think, and with Antonio Brown, and this is only...
And it's not specifically him. Yeah, it's talking about guys in general.
The reason why we're using him as the example here is he made the comments. He said if a guy underperforms, you get rid of him. If he overperforms, you take care of him. I think in Antonio Brown's case, and this is me, I'm not speaking for Antonio Brown. I can't speak for him. I can only tell you how I see it, what I can read into his comments. I think when it comes to him, he looks at that $8.5 million. He looks at what he did last year where he was the second leading receiver right behind Julio Jones by a handful of yards. He was ahead of Brandon Marshall, ahead of DeAndre Hopkins, ahead of the all-great one-handed catching Odell Beckham Jr. He looks at that and goes, okay, I'm one of the top 5 wide receivers in this league. I'm not getting paid enough. I feel like he sees these contracts in the NBA, and yes, that may influence him a little bit, but it's not a, hey, I should be getting paid what these NBA guys are. It's, I'm overperforming my contract, and I deserve to get paid what I deserve.
You know what the kind of temporary solution is? Don't sign a 6-year deal. Sign a 2-year deal. Because if you perform really well,
a lot of guys do.
You get more money. And if you don't perform well, then you're getting your ass cut. That's the other part of the conversation. If you're not, that's exactly what he said. If you underperform,
you get rid of them.
Exactly. So, which also that comment, I do want to point out that that's a dumb comment because it just doesn't really add up when a team is as big as NFL teams are.
Yeah, and
there's 52 players on that team.
The teams are different. I mean, in an NBA, you've got just limited roster spots. There's 53 guys on an NFL team the money, you could give an NBA team and an NFL team the same amount of money, and if you split everybody's money equal, of course the NBA guys are going to make more because there's less of them.
Exactly. I really think that, it comes down to quite a few things. It's not the money to me. I think it's either the status. He just wants to see that big number, and he's seen these NBA guys get big numbers, and he thinks, well, people are going to think they're better athletes than me.
He's seeing NBA. I think it's because, and this is why I'm bringing in the NBA to this conversation, it's not the guys like Mike Conley or the guys like Dwight Howard or Al Horford or Kevin Durant, the guys who are starters. They're definitely going to be starters on their team. It's the guys like, I would throw Timothy Mozgov in there, Bismack Biyombo, Austin Rivers, these guys who are either going to be bench players on their team. They were either like Mozgov was a bench play. He didn't even play in the finals for the Cavs, who won the damn thing, getting $16 million a year from the Lakers. Bismack Biyombo had one good game where he had a fucking bunch of rebounds and blocks, and he got a huge contract. It does pay into it because it's kind of one of those things where it's like, hey, I'm doing more than these guys. Yeah. Why are they getting paid more than us? You can't say that there's not a little bit of jealousy there.
Sure.
But to me, it's also completely different worlds.
I just think that, well, two things. One, I just want to say, hey, don't hate the player, hate the game. But also, I just want to say, I don't think it's actually about the money is what I'm trying to say. I think it's purely that status symbol as one thing.
Hey, I'm one of the top
I'm one
guys.
of the top guys, and their mid-round guys are getting paid the same amount, are getting paid more than I am, so that must make me less of an athlete. Or I still think, if you're gonna make the argument as an NFL player of, hey, we're putting our bodies on the line, our sport is more dangerous than basketball. Someone in the comment section might get angry at me for saying that, but I'll stand by it. Then ask for better health insurance. Ask to be covered for life for health insurance by the NFL. I think that simply sitting there, when you're getting paid $8 million this year, simply sitting there and saying, hey, I want more money, everybody sits there and they roll their eyes. If you make the argument of, percentage-wise, the average player is getting paid less than the average player over there, that's unfair. Okay, I can start to see your argument. If you're saying something about our health and our bodies, I can get with that argument. It's just that when you sit there and you say, I'm getting paid millions of dollars, but I want to get paid more millions of dollars, I just sit there and I'm never going to be able to side with that argument.
Well, and how the contracts went down was Antonio Brown drafted 2010. He played 2 seasons under that rookie contract. At the time, it was 4 years. He got 4 years. He was making about $300,000, $400,000. Then he got the contract. He was making $500,000. Now he's up to the $6 million mark. Like I said, overall he's making $8.5 million guaranteed. Another thing that I think, and this is within the realm of the NFL, that I think if it was me and I was Antonio Brown, I'd kind of have a problem with it, is you look at guys like, and these are guys who have either, like, I'll list the ones that haven't even taken a snap yet in the NFL. You got guys like Kevin White, $16 million guaranteed. We've got guys like Laquan Treadwell is on this, getting more money. He's got about $9.4 million. Hasn't even touched the ball. Doxson, $10 million guaranteed. We've got a guy like Devonta Parker entering his second year. Didn't perform that well last year. He's got $10 million guaranteed. You've got Corey Coleman, $11 million. He hasn't even touched the ball. And I'm getting these from Spot Rack. These are guaranteed at signing. And I know it's different contracts at different times, but that can also kind of get into the wound too.
Oh, for sure. I think that kind of goes into my statement of don't hate the player, hate the game. Get mad at the system you have here. But here's my thing. All right, Antonio Brown, this is talking specifically about him, not about the whole issue here. But if you're upset about your contract, don't play. Hold out.
Hold out.
Because the Steelers...
I mean, look at what Von Miller was going to do.
He got his money.
He even said, he's like, you know what? If I don't get a deal, I'll just sit out the whole season.
The
Why risk my body?
Steelers are a team that could easily go to a Super Bowl this year. They've got the players to do it. Antonio Brown is one of those players. You're not happy with your contract? Sit your ass out. Get paid. Or put your money where your mouth is.
Can I ask you a question? This will be the last thing I ask you for this kind of segment of the podcast before we move on.
Yeah.
Do you think when it comes to contracts between the NBA and the NFL how do I want to phrase this? Does it influence the different leagues that both of them are obviously different, where David Stern, the commissioner right before Adam Silver, kind of set up the NBA as a star-driven league where you've got your stars like Kobe, LeBron, MJ, Magic. I'll even go back that far. You've got guys like Steph Curry now where it's a bunch of stars, Kevin Durant. Whereas the NFL has always been Roger Goodell is probably the bigger proponent of this, of it's not about you, Cam Newton, as the star. It's about the shield. It's all about that shield, and it's about the integrity of our league, and nobody is higher than the shield. Does that influence it?
No, I would disagree with that statement, actually. I think the NFL is all about the stars as well.
You think so?
I think
really?
so.
I don't think...
Watch the commercials. How many Cam Newton commercials did we see throughout this year?
Commercials are different than... I mean, I look at the NBA, and it is all about the stars. Like, you can't go 2 seconds without talking about these one players, whereas in the NFL, it's
have
all
you ever
about
watched
the
a
team.
Packers game before?
Well,
Have you ever seen a Packers game?
No, I usually don't watch the Packers unless they're getting beat by my Vikings.
So let me talk to you a little bit about a Packers game. They've got this player on this team. He's one of the best players to play the football game ever.
Who should deserve more criticism than he gets, but go ahead.
Aaron Rodgers is this guy who plays football. His brother won The Bachelorette just a couple days ago or something
Apparently,
like that.
Aaron didn't even know he was on The Bachelorette. Don't even talk to his brother,
I'm pretty
Jordan.
convinced that I think her name is JoJo, picked, I think his name is Jordan?
Jordan Rodgers.
Jordan Rodgers. I'm pretty sure she picked him purely to meet Aaron Rodgers.
Maybe.
I'm pretty convinced of that.
But it's funny that, like, you heard that, right? That Aaron Rodgers apparently doesn't talk to his brother?
He wants nothing to do with this. No, if you've ever seen a Packers game, you would know the absolute, ass kissing that is done about Aaron Rodgers. Now, let's move to the Patriots. Same with Tom Brady. Same with Cam Newton until, the scrutinies happened after Super Bowl. Same with Von Miller this whole time. Same thing with Peyton Manning. Just list the players. How many times you have to watch somebody just absolutely go to town about how much they love certain quarterbacks? It's a star-driven league still. It is. It has to be, because you got the one man who's got the ball in his hand. And he's the one who throws the ball. He's the one that gets all the credit. That's how it is.
But if I said, how about if I did this? Take quarterbacks out of the discussions of the star-driven league, or is it just the quarterbacks are the only stars?
I think the quarterbacks are mostly all the stars. I do. But
because in the NBA, I can give you stars, and
for sure,
I could hit every single position on the court.
You can hit most positions.
Yes, there's less positions, but it's one of those things where I think in the NFL, if the quarterback is the high glamour position.
Let's talk about this. You're never going to have offensive linemen. Let's take them out of the equation. You're never going to have kickers. You're never going to have punters. Special teams is out of the equation except for Devin Hester, because he's amazing.
Who just got released.
Yeah, he did, unfortunately. But you know what? No surprise. So here's the thing. Okay, you can list players. Honey Badger just got his big contract, highest paid safety ever. All right, Gronkowski. People are talking about his contract now. Is he going to be paid not the highest tight end, but is he going to get wide receiver money? How many Gronk commercials do we have? We're talking about his Instagram. We're talking about him partying all the time, and we love the fact that he makes scrambled eggs better than Tom Brady can scramble. So we talk about this. We have OBJ, who's the instant highlight reel. Every game we're talking about him. Josh Norman, we were talking about this man like crazy, and the fight he had with OBJ. That's a rivalry that we're going to talk about all the time now because they're in the same division. You can list players. I don't know if I would say that they're at the same star level all the time as Andrew Luck, as Drew Brees.
But here's
but they
the
are
thing.
Stars still.
They're stars, but it's different because it's all about, and I'm going to go back to the commissioners that they had. Where in the NBA, these players, I feel like they're encouraged by the league to build your brand. You look at LeBron, he's not just a player, he's a complete brand. You look at Michael Jordan, there is no Jumpman, there are no Air Jordans without Michael Jordan. He is a complete brand. Same thing for Kobe. Like, all these guys get their different shoes. You've got their different shoes. And I know for the NBA, on that comparison, well, kids are obviously going to buy gym shoes over cleats because unless you play football,
it doesn't make sense to buy
you're
cleats.
not wearing cleats.
Yeah.
But when I look at the NFL, Roger Goodell doesn't have that same kind of, it's not about your brand. It's you are not bigger than the Shield. The Shield is bigger than you. You are a part of the NFL. And it's all about because how many times do we hear in the NFL the integrity of the game? A shit ton.
Integrity of the league.
How much do we hear about that in the NBA? Zero.
Apparently there's no integrity.
Goose egg.
Well, I think that football's always going to be viewed as more of a team sport than basketball will as well.
Because there's 53 players on the roster.
And not only that, but I mean, I think the average person watching basketball is not understanding the amount of work that the role player is doing to set up the player with the ball to do whatever he wants to do. So there's a lot more that goes into basketball team-wise that people don't quite always grab. Where on and football, it's obvious because we got 11 guys. 5 of them are blocking here. 3 of them are blocking over there. This guy threw the ball to that guy, and now he's going to run.